Hi all, another episode of Saturday Architecture. I have another interesting character, friend, long time thrown under the bus, Deepak from Mito is another architect. He's based out of Colombo. And continuing our discussion on technical debt, one of the interesting things which Deepak is working on is he is embarking on a complex open source platform which will help consolidate publishing journals that's going to happen and accessible to the world outside. It's a kind of CSR that's run by different companies. Deepak also runs a practice which is around service management, ITIL, DevOps, all the good things in today's world. Okay, can you plan for a technical debt and how you would do it? So, Deepak, thanks for joining. Welcome. What kind of technical debts do you anticipate that's going to build up in a platform like this?
Right. Thanks, Kumaran. So let me start by my simplest definition of what I consider as technical debt. Right. So my simplest definition of what technical debt it's a compromise. It's a compromise which for some reason it got made by choice or by omission or commission. It's a compromise which happened. Right. It's a compromise in quality. It's a compromise in choice of technology. It's a compromise in the turnaround time, speed. For whatever reason, we made a compromise, and that is the fundamental basis of recognizing, making sure that people understand that we are consciously making a compromise,
Hmm.
right?
Nice.
So that's the culture I would want to put in to the project and say, whenever you make a compromise, just recognize that you are making a compromise, because it's compromise is a easy word for everybody to comprehend. It's not as complicated as technical debt.
Okay. Yeah.
Although people do understand debt very easily. It says, yes, you have taken money, you have to give it back, right? That's also another analogy which I use with a lot of teams. It says, how do I explain technical debt? It says, this is the money you have taken from somebody, right? That somebody might be your user, somebody might be any of your stakeholders, right? It could be, for that matter, a compromise which has been imposed on you, right? Sometimes, uh, so just to classify the kinds of technical debt at higher level, which you can consider. One is technical debt because of cost which you make. Right? It is too expensive for us to do this, so we are going to do not X, we are going to do Y, and we just record that decision. This is a technical debt. If we have more money, we will use X. Otherwise, we'll use Y. Right?
Okay.
You record it, keep it. You can have it as a low priority thing, but you record it. But this is if we have more money, if the budget gets more, or if somebody is benevolent and they give us more money, we will go fix this thing because this is the first choice. But because we cannot have this first choice, we are making this second choice. So that is
Okay.
because of cost. Then there is the architectural technical debt. It's okay. We don't know how to do this,
Hmm. Okay.
right?
Uh,
Right. So we just don't know how to do this. We do not have the skills to do it. We want to do this particular model of working, but we do not have this capability today
nice.
to work with this in this. So whatever other debt which is accrued out of making of the architecture is because of the cost or because of the lack of skills or knowledge of the team, right? So and the third kind of choices which an architect usually makes is because of the evolution of the technology itself. So whatever, whether it's the cost or the lack of skills or the lack of the technology base itself, you make a record that yes, once. So this is an example which I'm taking from real life where we were working on a project for a customer and they decided to do it in .NET Core, and what particular library said this will come in September of that
Okay.
year,
Hmm.
right? And say, okay, until that comes, we have to write our own, right? So we will do bare minimum job of delivering what we need today, and we'll record it as a technical debt to be looked back in September when .NET Core comes up with this feature included in their base itself, right? And then we will replace this piece of code with the library which we are going to get from .NET Core. So the fourth thing could be the time-based thing. Also, what is the fastest way to deliver this, right? So if we are going to write in this way or this choice of architecture, this is going to take 3 months. This is going to take 2 months. This and which are sort of related to skills as well, but you can classify it as a time constraint, which is going to drive the choice of a particular architecture, right?
It's interesting. I love the word you used, compromise. I think classically we use the word trade-off. But I think
Yes.
as an architect, Nito could comment, whenever I use the word trade-off, right, and I've traded off, that means I've closed that thread in my mind. Okay, I never make a note that I have to be, oh, I did compared, I did trade-off, and I chose this. The other one is just gone.
So yeah, actually, compromise actually keeps it alive. I would say, right?
I
That's
think
pretty.
that's
Yeah, it raises an emotion. It
correct.
raises an emotion
Definitely
which
it does.
actually business would be much better if people understand compromise rather
Yeah.
than trade-off. Because
Because you're going to run it as an open kind of a community project, right? Which is
right.
open to developers. Initially, it's like an incubation. You will have a team who will do it.
Yes.
How do you see the sustenance that are happening? Like people come and go. They need to keep track of what are the technical debts that's being built, have that vision. How do you thoughts around how do you handle that?
So one which I said that being able to record the issues, right, and being able to make sure that your tooling supports that, right, and actually tooling really isn't much big deal these days. You can you can do it in Excel sheet if you want. There is not a big deal, but using a platform which keeps the information sort of forever, right? So for example, you use GitHub and you have the issue tracker there, right? So people can raise issues there, and that's what I plan to use for this project. I say if there is something which you find out, make sure it is recorded as an issue, right? and
Mm.
and then we track it and we close it, and then it's there forever,
And it
right?
could be like creating a label called tech debt high, tech debt low kind of thing, right? So with the issue,
Exactly. So that classification is unique to that project, which they can say this is a cost compromise or whatever, right? So this is a technical compromise. Means that is all that is just metadata for people to analyze later on.
you're kind of approaching it from building a culture within the platform, the
Yes.
culture of tracking an issue, the culture of tracking, tagging it as if it is, whether the person who's running it, the
Yes.
benevolent dictator, he's going to take
Yes.
a call. If he takes yes, it's good. If he takes no, it's good. And every time a compromise is made, that issue will get logged along with a compromise, right? Whether it's going to be high, low kind of a thing.
There has to be a recognition within the project teams that they have to assign time to fix those issues. They
Uh,
cannot be just uh, so this is where I spoke about what a lot of organizations today use, the concept of cap, the bug cap or the technical debt cap. At any point of time, we will not let the technical debt number of issues grow more than this X number. So if something happens which goes above this, we stop feature development, we fix those compromises. Every time we have a daily stand up or scrum or whatever else name you have for that, is we are going to look at
the
uh,
cap.
what is the number. Total we cannot exceed 40. So if we exceed 40, we'll stop everything and we think about how do we bring it below 40.
Nitu, you had a question for Deepak.
I have been, kind of like, making code open source within the organizations. Most of the time, the interesting part about this open source is most of the time in technical debt, all the other pillars in ISA, pillars, contributes to the design for technical debt. But this open source concept actually goes reverse. Lack of like incentivizing the contributors is going to become a technical debt. Without the incentive, like people are not also going to contribute. So continuity of the project is becoming a technical debt.
So you're saying, what is it for people to start contributing? What is in it for them? What is the incentive for them to continue to support this project in some way? Right? Let's say I'm the user of the tool. I'm deeply concerned about that tool. I'm deeply concerned about that service or whatever. I am a user. I'm a stakeholder in this ecosystem of whatever that open source project seems to be, and I am directly affected by the quality what is there, right? So that is one direct incentive for people to actually fix something which they are affected by. My productivity is affected, my features are affected, something is affected, right? So that is one incentive, which is, these are all of course non-monetary because this is open source, right? So that is one, I would say, the big driving force behind a lot of the tools which are actually getting updated, right? So if you find an open source project which is not getting updated, not it's sort of abandoned, the most likely reason is not many people are actually using it, right? So that is a sort of a self cleaning up system, right? As okay, we are done, nobody wants to use it, this is the end of this project, the code is available, somebody wants to download it, make their own version, they are welcome to do it, but nobody really cares because nobody uses it, right? So there's a good way of a project to die. So usage drives the incentive. So the second thing is where people who want, of course, the claim to fame example which Kumaran used, right? This is, I have a prestigious project, right? I have again, prestige is again driven by how much that tool is in demand or how much that tool is being used by people. Third type is, I want to learn something, right? What is the easiest way for me to learn something, which is the project which I can easily understand. I am new to this technology. Let me see, if I do a pull request, does it really get approved, right? And I can sort of polish my craft. That is my incentive. I'm polishing my craft. That is my incentive. Call your friends and relatives and say, can you please review this code? And that is another incentive. It says, Kumaran owes me a favor, I can ask him to review the code, right? That is as good an incentive as any. He says, okay, at least I know Kumaran, and he will do a good job if I tell him to do so. So, and that is a social incentive, I would.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
What you said is actually brilliant, because it's like trying to hit two birds with one stone. One is about people contributing on any volunteering kind of an activity with respect to technology. And by making people retain, you can also have this culture of handling technical debt. So it's like usage, the recognitions as prestige. Third, interesting is the ability of craft. I think interestingly, Nito, as I say, right, it's the architect's responsible to do these three things. If he does that well, the other things will fall into play. Okay. So if a project fails, hang the architect. Nobody else is responsible. Okay. Great. Thanks, Deepak, for joining. And we'll catch up with all in a photo.